Hey everybody, I'm Andrew from Lampro Event Solutions. Welcome to our sixth and final online sound training session that'll be looking at various types of audio cables, as well as tips on how to achieve a good live sound mix for FOH and monitor applications. If you want to have a look at any of the previous sessions, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the online sound training playlist. If you're already subscribed, make sure to hit that notification bell to stay updated about our latest videos. In case you missed it, my company, Lampro Event Solutions, specializes in technical services for the events industry, and we're a supplier and installer of professional sound, lighting, AV, and staging equipment. If you need any of these services, including live streaming or video recording and editing, please send me a message or visit our website at www.lamproaudio.co.za. We make use of the following professional brands, namely TurboSound, Behringer and Wharfedale speakers, as well as Shure, Sennheiser, Audix and Samson microphones, and Allen & Heath's range of analog and digital mixing consoles. Other processors include Radial Engineering and DBX. The following page includes all the references that are used for the training sessions, including the Yamaha Sound Reinforcement Handbook, as well as a few others that can be downloaded from the link in the video description below. In session 5, we had a look at crossovers, amplifiers, and different kinds of loudspeakers. In this session, we'll cover the different types of cables, and I'll share some tips with you on how to achieve a good live sound mix that is applicable to front of house and monitor sound. Cables are one of the most important links in the sound chain that is needed for professional audio reproduction. They connect all the input transducers, processors, and output transducers to one another, carrying audio signals from one piece of equipment to the next. There are two types of cables that are used to transmit audio signals between input transducers and the various types of processors, namely balanced and unbalanced audio cables. All of them make use of different kinds of connectors. The most common audio connectors are XLR, TRS or stereo jack, TS or mono jack, and RCA connectors. Balanced cables. A balanced cable is a three-core cable which carries the audio signal on two insulated wires, namely the positive or hot and negative or cold wires, with a third wire that is wrapped around the positive and negative wires that acts as a shield against interference. This shield keeps the audio signal free from any electrical interference and hums. They are commonly used with XLR cables that are used with microphones. Since microphones produce low-level audio signals that require preamplification and a sufficient amount of gain, the cable that the microphone is connected to is more susceptible to electrical interference. This makes balanced audio cables a must when it comes to microphone applications. Unbalanced cables. An unbalanced cable is a two-core cable with an insulated positive and negative wire. Since some instruments and media players produce line-level audio signals that are a lot louder than microphone audio signals, balanced audio cables are not needed unless they need to cover a distance that is usually longer than 10 meters. A DI or direct injection box can be used to convert the unbalanced audio signal into a balanced audio signal. Here you'll see the difference between a balanced and unbalanced audio cable. This is also applicable to XLR or microphone cables that makes use of an XLR connector. On a balanced audio cable, the positive or hot wire is connected to the tip of the TRS or tip ring sleeve connector. The negative or cold wire, that is also referred to as the common or ground sense, is connected to the ring and the shield is connected to the sleeve. On an unbalanced audio cable, the positive or hot wire is connected to the tip of the TS or tip sleeve connector, and the negative or cold wire is connected to the sleeve. A balanced connector can be breached to make it unbalanced, as is shown in the diagram, where the shield and the negative wires are connected to one another. On an XLR connector, pin 1 is connected to your shield, pin 2 to the positive or hot wire, and pin 3 to the negative or cold wire. An unbalanced XLR cable will have pin 1 and 3 linked to one another. All of these principles will be applicable when making up different balanced and unbalanced audio cables with different connectors on each side. On the following illustration, you will see the most common audio connectors that are used for audio applications. First, we have the male and female XLRs that are used with balanced microphone cables. The TS or tip sleeve connector is used with unbalanced audio cables that is commonly used with instruments, for example guitars and keyboards. These connectors are also referred to as mono jacks, even though this is not the correct term for the connector. The 6.35mm TRS or tip ring sleeve connector next to it can be used for balanced and unbalanced applications. They are also referred to as stereo jacks. The RCA or Radio Corporation of America connector is a common unbalanced audio connector that is used for commercial and professional purposes. Most media players, including CD and DVD players, CDJs, turntables, and other playback devices have them. The 3.5mm TRS or mini jack connector is exactly the same as the 6.35 TRS connector, but is only smaller in size and is commonly used with playback devices such as laptops, tablets, smartphones, and other playback devices that makes use of a 3.5mm jack connection. A speaker-on connector is used with speaker cables and is available in NL2, NL4, and NL8 versions. The NL2 has two poles that can be used with a 2-core speaker cable that is used for basic passive full-range speaker systems with a built-in passive crossover that will split the amplified signal to the separate high and low frequency drivers, as was discussed in the previous session. An NL4 connector has 4 poles and is used with a 4-core speaker cable where separate amplifiers and external crossovers are used to send amplified signals to separate drivers in a professional 2- or 3-way speaker system. The NL8 is an 8-pole connector and is used with 8-core speaker cables that is used with 3- or 4-way speaker systems. I quickly want to show you guys how to roll a cable properly. For those of you that's not familiar with the over-under method that is used in professional audio applications. When starting with the one end of the cable and the connector pointing outwards, you loop the cable back towards you into your hand. With the next loop, you will do it in the opposite direction, looping it under your hand. The next movement is over again, and the next loop under. Over, under. Over, under, over, under, and over again. Using this technique will ensure the longevity of your audio cables and will keep them free from unwanted kinks and coils. The longer your cables are, the bigger your loops will be to keep the cable tidy and workable when loading them into cable trunks. Right, so that covered the various types of audio cables. Next, I'll share some tips with you to achieve a good live sound mix. The best practice from the onset is always to train your hearing and to teach yourself how to identify the different types of frequencies. If you can do this, you can get a good front of house or monitor mix going in no time. A good live sound mix will largely depend on choosing the correct equipment for the job. Before investing or pulling into a venue with your sound system, always check if these factors have been taken into consideration. Does the equipment meet the production's requirements? Will the speaker system have adequate SPL for the size venue? How many people can the venue accommodate? Is it indoors or outdoors? Is it for a conference or a live band? All of these factors need to be addressed to choose the right equipment for the event to achieve the best results. Before doing sound checks, make sure that your speakers are placed in the correct positions to supply adequate coverage for your audience area. If a line array is being used, the system needs to be calibrated correctly to get the right response out of each speaker element. Walk around in the venue and listen to the overall sound that's coming out of the sound system to hear if there's any dead spots or problem areas that needs to be addressed. If you have a graphic EQ available, you can use it with an RTA to identify and adjust problem frequencies to avoid any unnecessary feedback issues from the main sound system during sound checks. Each venue has its own unique frequency response, so a graphic EQ together with an RTA is a valuable tool to get the main speaker system to respond properly in the environment that it's being used in. Most digital mixing consoles feature built-in graphic EQ with RTA that can assist with identifying problem frequencies. When your speaker system has been positioned correctly and all the needed adjustments have been made to get the right response out of it, you can do line checks on all your channels. If you don't have a line testing device, a microphone will do to ensure that all the lines work properly. From here, all the different microphones and instruments can be patched accordingly. Always make sure to use the right microphone for the right application. As was mentioned in the second session, dynamic microphones are well suited for vocals or instruments with high SPLs. Condenser mics are intended for vocals and instruments with low SPLs, for example, stringed instruments and choirs. Also use vocal mics for vocals and instrument mics with instruments, since a lot of them are tailored with specific frequency responses. When all your mics and instruments are connected, the gain and EQ for each channel can be set for the different vocals and instruments. It's common practice to have your drum kit and percussion instruments on your first set of channels, then your instruments, followed by the vocals. The order does not really matter, but make sure to leave yourself sufficient headroom on each channel to avoid distortion. The key to EQing each vocal or instrument effectively is to make it sound as natural as possible. Most vocals cannot produce frequencies below 100 Hz, so always switch on the high-pass filter to remove unwanted low frequencies from the mix. That might make the vocal sound muddy through the mix. Always aim for clarity so each vocal and instrument can be heard properly. This is mostly achieved by cutting frequencies rather than boosting them. Most professional mics are designed to give you the right frequency response, so always use your parametric EQ wisely. The different drums, instruments, and vocals can be assigned to specific groups or DCAs to make it easier to control the overall levels of each section. Once the right levels are set for the drum kit, assign them to a group for easy overall level adjustment. The kick drum, snare, and hi-hat is the basis of a drum kit, so these always need to be heard clearly in the mix. Dynamics processors, like compressors, limiters, and gates, are also very effective tools that can be used with drums and vocals. Gates and compressors will help to tighten up your drums, making it sound a lot cleaner. Using compressors on vocals and certain instruments can also assist with leveling out dynamic range or abrupt changes and fluctuations in audio levels. That will make your mix a lot easier on the ear, especially when it comes to loud music, for example hard rock and gospel. It's also very useful for spoken word applications with presenters, panel discussions, and broadcasting applications. Effects should always be used wisely and is there to enhance the genre of music or the production that is being performed. Subtle reverbs are ideal for instrumental, jazz, and background music. Delays, chorus, and flange effects are popular choices for rock and pop music. Too much effects can ruin your sound mix, so always make sure your overall mix remains clear when adding effects. Microphone placement is another important factor that should be kept in mind. Incorrect microphone placement can affect the way microphones will respond and pick up the sound source. For cardioid mics, always keep the microphones pointed directly towards the sound source. Teaching vocalists the correct mic technique is also advised. Cupping microphones and having them too close or too far from the mouth is a common problem. If you're one sound operator that mixes both FOH and monitor sound, good for you. This is usually applicable to small and straightforward shows. If you have separate FOH and monitor sound operators, you'll both need to work together to get the different mixes to balance out and work together to make it enjoyable for your audience and the musicians on stage. This can only be achieved when the monitor mixes are well managed. When the monitor mix is too loud, it will most probably affect the FOH mix and can make the overall sound a lot less intelligible. So that gave you some pointers that's focused primarily on the FOH mix, but a lot of the tips are also relevant to monitor mixing when it comes to microphone placement, setting gains, and using the different kinds of processing that will make your overall sound a lot better. Let's have a quick look at how a good monitor mix can be achieved. A monitor speaker system, also known as a foldback or stage system, is solely there to assist the musicians, speakers, or performers on stage with their specific monitoring requirements. Different artists, bands, and performers will have different requirements, so make sure to check any technical riders, when supplied, properly to give the musicians exactly what they need. Believe it or not, but the overall experience on stage and monitor mixes will have a huge impact on the quality and success of the show. The monitor engineer is equally important to achieve a successful show. That being said, the overall monitor level should be managed properly so the monitors won't be problematic to the FOH engineer or the overall sound in the venue. Professional musicians usually have the needed experience to work with a monitor engineer to get the best solution that suits both of them. Key instruments for stage monitor mixes is an important rule to remember. Only add to a monitor mix what is needed and leave unnecessary mics and instruments out of it to reduce a muddy monitor mix. In short, less is more to get the best results. Graphic equalizers are also very useful for monitor speakers to cut out any problem frequencies that might cause feedback problems and unclear sound. Make sure to insert some graphic EQs on all your monitor mixes to get the best sound out of your monitor speakers. In-ear monitoring systems are very useful to reduce overall stage noise levels and contributes a great deal towards making the overall FOH mix sound a lot better. Another advantage is that musicians can get the perfect mix that is needed for their performance without having to worry about monitor levels or feedback problems. Okay, that brings us to the end of our online sound training course. I trust it was insightful, giving you a basic understanding of professional sound reinforcement and all of the equipment that is used with it. Before I go, I want you to know that the training sessions won't stop here. If there's anything you guys would like to check out, please let me know and I'll see what I can do about it. I also offer in-depth and practical training sessions at our premises in Kempton Park, Johannesburg, or via Zoom and Skype for those of you that wants to join us online for any individual or group sessions. Please remember to like and to follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and to subscribe to our YouTube channel for all our event news and equipment reviews. If you have any questions, comments or suggestions, please leave it in the comment section down below. Thanks guys, I'll see you soon.